Okay, so this first question on your test is going to say, is this arithmetic, is it geometric, or it might not be either. Okay, so here's what we're going to ask ourselves. Are we doing the same thing every time? Are you doing something that's the same and the same? Question 1A, did you do something the same and then the next thing was the same thing, pattern? Looks like I went up by 7 and up by 7. So then it is a arithmetic. Okay, B, did you do a same pattern, same pattern? So did you do a same adder or a same multiplier each time? What are you thinking? Because I times by -3 and I times by -3. So yeah, it worked out. Okay, question C. Did you do the same thing every time? No. If you're going to ask about adding, this would add 2 and then this would add 7. So that's not good. And it's not the same timeser. So it is neither. I tried to trick you because I was thinking if you saw add by 2 and times by 2, you would think that it was the same thing, but it's not. That's me trying to trick you. D. Are you doing something that's the same? Timesing 4? Yep, so geometric then it would work. Is there something the same going on here? Do you have a pattern to it? Subtract 5, I heard. Subtract 5, yep. That checks out. Is there the same adder or the same multiplier on this one? If I wanted to check out the adding, this would mean I would have added 4 on that jump, but then that jump is only by 3, so then that's a no-go. What's the timeser if I try to timeser? Anybody know what the timeser is from 8 to 4? A half? Does anybody know the timeser if you go from 4 to a 1? A quarter? So those aren't the same timesers. So it's neither. So what if you just don't see it? If you don't see it, how do you really test this out? You do a term, subtract a previous term, a term, subtract a previous term, and you're trying to see if they're the same. Then you can test a term divided by a previous term, a term divided by a previous term, right? Are they the same? Nothing was the same. Okay, fractions. You know what I saw somebody do on a test and I thought, you know what, that's probably helpful. They wrote everything over the same bottom to see if they could find a pattern. So what if we wrote these 3 fractions with what number would you use commonly with everything then? 24. So if I did that, would I see a pattern? So the first fraction should get multiplied by 8. So 16 on the top. 6 times what would have been the 24? 4. And then there was a 1. And then would you see a pattern out of that? Is there a pattern? Yep. Do you see the pattern? It's would you call it geometric or arithmetic? Geometric. It's a quarter. $16.41. That's a quarter of its previous. Yep. When something ever goes down, right? That's a fraction. Okay. Let's use a 6 here. So if we put everything with a 6, could we find a pattern? So then this would be a 3. Would you be able to see a pattern out of that now? What am I going up by? I think arithmetic, right? It's going up by 4, 6. You're adding 4, 6 every time. 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 4 is 11, up by 4, 6. Okay, the last one here, maybe if we write them all over the same number, we can see something. Is there anything I can use as a number with them all? 18? Okay, now if I look at the tops, would you be able to add in a pattern? Adding is out. That's not the same. What about timesing? Is 2 divided by 3 the same as a 3 divided by a 9 ratio? 2 divided by 3 and 3 divided by 9. Term divided by previous, term divided by... Would that be a same ratio to you? No, 2/3 and 1/3. So that's a neither. Okay, on your test, I will give you that little formula sheet. I really wish I had my paper. There it is. Okay, everybody will get a copy of a little formula sheet on your test. So that's what you will have with you. Okay, so now find the 8th term. So as soon as we have questions, we should probably figure out what's happening in a pattern. What's going on every time? What are you doing each time? Looks like I am doing a add 5, right? So arithmetic, this is my formula. Find the 8th term. So term 8 equals term 1 plus n minus 1 d Okay, don't forget n is the number of terms, and I'm going to 8 terms. D is the difference. What's the common difference every time? There's a 5 as a difference. Okay, typing is important on your calculator. Are we good with that question? 42? Everybody typed it in nicely? Okay, so question B. Did you figure out what was happening as a pattern? Something that you added, or something you multiplied. So I picked a -3 multiplier as my pattern. So what does that mean on my formula sheet? I'm now going to pick this formula, term n, but I'm using the formula with an r in it, a ratio in it. R means ratio, that's the multiplier stuff. So term 7 equals so in your calculator, you have to have a bracket on that -3 to the 6th. Please don't write 7 minus 1. You should just do that in your head. So -3 to the 6th, that should be a calculator maneuver. I knew it was going to be positive because the first term is positive, the third term is positive, right? You're going to go positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Do your answers make sense on this test? Make sure you're asking that to yourself. Find the 6th term. So you have to figure out if you know a pattern first. Arithmetic, geometric, is there something common that you're adding, something that you're multiplying? So I figured out that I'm doing a half every time. So geometric, so I'm doing a geometric sequence formula for my sheet now. And again, you're looking for the ones that have R's in it. As soon as you see geometric, that's an R. Okay, accepting both of those answers. The one was a decimal and the one was a fraction. So some of you have been talking about that button on your calculator that can change from fractions to decimals. That button. Okay, question D. Can you get me a pattern? What's going on? Question D, what's the pattern? Looks like I'm going down by 8, down by 8. Okay, so that means it's an arithmetic, so 10 term equals, and find your formula. So on this one, I should know these things about the sequence. If it's going down, 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 I should be on a negative number, right? If I keep going down, I know that my answer should be negative. Right? Think about your pattern. If you just go down by 8, down by 8, down by 8, where kind of would you be? Does your answer make sense? Okay, so then E and H if you don't know if it's arithmetic or geometric, maybe you might see it again if you put it over the same bottom. So for instance here, if you just put everything over 24, maybe you might see what's happening. Oh, we just did these ones above, didn't we? We just did this one. It's 1g from above. So then we determined it was a multiplier one. We determined that. So we determined it was a multiplier of a quarter. And again, if you don't see it, you can always take a term, divide by a previous, right? Any term divided by its previous would tell you that ratio. Okay, so term 5 equals, how's our answer looking? Same? That'd be a good one to put as a fraction. Is everybody getting that fraction? Like when they type the fraction button, that it flip-flops for them? Did you figure it out?
Yeah, there's a little button that says fraction to decimal.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, question H here we did above. So we did this above on question 1H, and we decided it's arithmetic, and the difference was 4/6 or 2/3. So that's what we did above. We said the difference was that we went up 4/6 each time, or 2/3. Okay, so term 5 equals term 1 plus n minus d . Okay, so that's on your test where you have decide if it's arithmetic, geometric, nothing. Decide what the R is or what the D is. There's basic stuff. Then you're going to have this section, which is just figure out the term that you would get to. Next would be figure out the sums. So then there's the sum formulas. Okay, so figure out the sum. So always ask yourself, what's the pattern? Do you have a pattern that's consistent on number A, 3A? Looks to me like I'm doing it up 3, add 3, add 3. Okay, so this is arithmetic. So I'm going to go the sum of 10 terms equals the first term which is 6, plus the last term. Uh-oh. I don't know the last term. I don't know the last term, aka the 10th term is the last term, over 2 times the number of terms. So we're going to 10 terms. So now what do? I have to do a second equation, and I have to figure out the 10th term. Okay, so using this sum formula often makes you use a second. Okay, so on that example, we didn't know what the last term was, so we had to figure it out. Okay, B. Anybody figure out a pattern to this one? Are you doing something add or are you doing something timesy? I can tell you it's not adding. You're not doing the same amount. So it's a times. Okay, I'm getting smaller, so it's a fraction. Can you do 9 divided by 27 or 27 divided by 81? A third? So sum of 7 terms equals, figure out which formula to use. R is a ratio, like the multiplier. Okay, so this question is considered the hardest typing, how to type it. Did you type it in that we got 121.44? Okay, so on your test, I'm always looking for, did you get the correct D or R? Did you use the correct formula? And did you get the answer because you typed it in properly? So those are your points on your tests. Okay, question C. Always, what's the pattern? What's happening? Something consistent every time, which is? Going down by 8, going down by 8. So this means it's arithmetic. Okay, so this time, would you agree that I don't know how many terms I'm going to go up to? So I'm going to do the first term plus the last term over 2 times, I don't know. I don't know how many terms this actually is. So again, when you use this formula, I hinted to you, when you use it, more often than not, you have to find the other thing first. So how many terms are we? So how many terms are we is a different formula. So the last term minus the first term over the difference plus 1. So in this pattern, you went to 6 terms. Okay, again, if you're getting weird things on a test like 20.5 terms, that's wrong. Can't do that. If you get negative 100 terms, that's wrong. Can't have negative. Did you get negative 60? Okay, last one of these. Get me a pattern. What's happening on the pattern? So I times by negative 2 times by negative 2. So it's geometric. So sum of 9 terms equals the first term r to the n minus 1. Okay, there's a 100% chance this question is on your test with a negative, and I get people who write this, they will be wrong. If you write me that, you're wrong. I'm going to give you a deduction. You have to write negative 2 brackets to the 9th. Okay? Negative 2 to the 9th like that is wrong. Negative 2 to a 9th like that is correct. There's a 100% chance this question is on a test, and I will be looking for that. No. But if you were to type it in your calculator all, then you would, yeah? Or do you just probably hopefully do negative 3 in your head? Okay, so that's a good one to practice typing, because then we'll see if we type it the same. Okay, last question, so of the sum. This one says the sum of the entire. Soon as you see that, formula what? Which one does the sum of the whole sequence? This one. So you have to do this one. It's for sure geometric. There's no arithmetic option on this. When the sum of the sequence, when I say the sum of the sequence and I haven't specified, it's this one. Okay, do you have a multiplier here? What is your R number on this pattern? A half? Okay, so this one, I need an R on it. What's the common multiplier? It's fraction. It has to be a fraction. That's the only way you can do the whole sequence. If it gets smaller, 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 and smaller, and kind of zeroes out almost. If you divide, 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 you're going to get so small you're zeroing out. I got a quarter. And then practice your type. So on your test, I don't want you to use R's of 0.33. What do you think it is if it's a 0.33333 in your calculator? I want you to use fractions so your answer is not getting rounded. The other one you might see is when your calculator is 0.66666, what would I rather you write down for R? 2/3, so that you're not getting rounded answers. Okay, this last question, number 5. If I could say most people get almost 100% on this test, except for this question, seems to stump the most people. Okay, so here we go. This one is arithmetic, and this one is geometric, because it told me in the instructions. A is arithmetic, B is geometric. Okay, it told me the 5th term, and it told me the 9th term. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. If it's arithmetic, I'm going to have to add something. So I'm going to add something, which I'm going to call a D. I'm going to add something. I'm going to add something. And I'm going to add something. And then that's how I landed there. So I added that number on 4 jumps. If I added that number on 4 times, so now I'm going to algebra here. So it looks like the pattern was going down 7, down 7, down 7, down 7. So you could say, what was this entire jump? And divide it by 4, right? From here to here, how much did I move? And then if I had 4 jumps, divide by 4 tells me how much I did each jump. So now I want this. What is term 1? So what are you going to do to get me that? So how do you backtrack? I really should move up 7. And how many jumps would you do it? 1, 2, 3. Looks like you'd have to do 4 jumps up. Okay, if you really want, you can put all these numbers in, like up 7. You could have been writing 22. I don't care if you write all that. 29 is up 7. 36 is up 7. 43, right? You can write those in, that's okay, but kind of understand how to do it. Okay, that one usually seems okay. Here's the one where I catch people. Geometric. Okay, so what does geometric mean? I would times by something to get there. I would times by something, times by something, right? That's what a geometric pattern does. So I'm timesing by something and timesing by something and timesing by something. What's another way to mathematically write r times r times r? R cubed. How do you solve for r? How do you undo a cube? You do a cubic root. Okay, and I showed you how to do that button. If you push 3, any root, this button, 3 and then the any root, so you have to hit second shift. 3 any root 27 is 3. So you can check when you get that, you can say, did it work? If I times by 3, what am I at? If I times by 3, what am I at? If I times by 3, what am I at? So now I need you to get me term 1. So how do I undo it? I would go backwards and divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3, backtracking, or divide by 3 cubed, because I did 3 jumps. Okay, so that is probably the hardest question on the test where most people lose the point. But you're going to nail it. I know it. You're going to nail it.